Everyone to HGA Session Spotlight. This is an opportunity for you to get to know your Convergence 2024 leaders, their sessions, and give you a better idea of what you might want to register for this coming summer in Wichita. Today we will be hearing from Donna Foley, Liz Gipson, Deborah Heddle, Marcy Petrini, Barbara Setsu Pickett, Robin Spady, David Heustess, and Mary Zicafoose. As a reminder, Convergence 2024 is taking place July 11th through the 17th in Wichita, Kansas. If you haven't already paged through the registration book, please do. You will find all kinds of information about the different sessions and events taking place, including the marketplace, exhibits, fashion show, keynote, tours, and so much more. We will be hosting 150 different sessions ranging from 90-minute seminars to 3-day workshops, 8 of which we get to hear about today. So first up to spotlight their Convergence session is Donna Foley, leading a 3-hour seminar called Natural Dyes Overview. Welcome, Donna.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited that I'll be teaching natural dyes at Convergence 2024. This is a 3-hour seminar. I'm doing a couple others that are full day. If you have time and are really inspired for natural dyeing, you can look into them. This overview is just about what's going on with natural dyes, both in history and all the exciting things that are happening these days under that umbrella of natural dyes. I have always been a plant person. They've always been part of who I am. So I have had a natural dye practice for 40 years, and I am still utterly fascinated with the colors and having that relationship with the plants. So I loved about the history, so we'll kind of delve into what a long history you've had, how textiles have been dyed with these colors for thousands of years, and they do speak to us, we just recognize them. And then there is so much going on these days with sustainable fashion, fiber sheds, which are using invasive plant species, gathering them, using that for the dye, making it a full circle kind of fashion statement. So that is just a wonderful thing that's been going on in the natural dye world. And so many people have taken one little aspect and has just studied it and gone wild with it. And so kind of want to see what's going on, giving you good places to continue looking for inspiration and maybe other workshops and things. I really strive for a complete palette, so we'll talk a bit about both local plants and maybe help you figure out what would be plants. I've always lived rurally, so it is a little bit easier for me, but even if you're living in a more urban environment, there are ways you can collect local plants or parts of plants and use in your dye practice. We can talk about over dyeing. So I love those calm colors you can get from just the local plants, but sometimes just a little bit of indigo or cochineal or madder root can kind of change it to a little bit brighter. We will go over safe practices. So we'll go home with some sheets on how you can mordant safely. That is the way that you're going to get your color to stay on your fiber. And yeah, we'll touch on all of those things. And then I plan to have an indigo dye vat going because that's a slightly different kind of dye process than most of the others. And it's just always so magical. Indigo has thousands of year old history in all parts of the world. So that's just always fun and exciting to do. So yeah, I hope you'll join me if you have some interest in learning about this amazing color festival you can get.
Thank you so much, Donna. A few questions. First, what, if any, experience is needed to have the most success in this session for potential attendees?
Great question, but beginners, total beginners, people who've never even thought about natural dyes would get a lot out of it, as well as I think even if you have ongoing natural dye practice, I think will be a good discussion on what's going on lately in the world. So, but it's open to all. Yes, open to all.
Will this seminar also include a question and answer portion for folks that?
Yes, actually, I'm hoping to be about the last like 45 minutes or so will be just that. I think that will be really important during this overview, is to have that question and answer period. So of course there'll be questions, you know, all along we'll be trying to answer, but kind of a dedicated last 40 minutes or so to make sure we've gotten everyone. And you can always contact me afterward and we could follow up if need be.
And you did mention that you are leading 2 other sessions. And is this, you said this would be a good, like, maybe introduction to or accompaniment for those classes?
Yes, although it will be on the 3rd day, the others will, but maybe to pull it all together if you've just done 1 or 2 of the other ones. The other ones, we might not be able to get to all the exciting things that are going on these days in the natural dye world. So I think you could still pick up really inspiring things from this overview, this 3-hour seminar.
Excellent. And I also know that there is, I don't believe that there is a materials fee. Are there any supplies that people might want to bring?
You might want to bring a pair of rubber gloves, because like I say, I hope we should be able to do the indigo dyeing, and unless you're good with blue hands, which I often walk around with blue hands, truth be told, but you might want to bring some rubber gloves.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. That is Natural Dyes Overview with Donna Foley. It's a 3-hour seminar that will be held on Saturday, July 13th. Thank you so much, Donna, for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Liz Gipson, who will be leading a 2-day workshop called Summer and Winter Block Designs on the Rigid Heddle Loom. Welcome, Liz.
Hey, glad to be here. Hello, everybody. Excited to be here with my fellow leaders and really looking forward to it. So my name is Liz Gipson and I'm a weaving teacher, and specifically the Rigid Heddle is my muse. And so I'm really looking forward to this workshop because it really shows you the expansive nature of this amazing tool, that its constraints are not nearly what we presume they will be. So we're going to take a 2-heddle threading, which is a standard threading. We're going to use the same threading throughout the width of the warp. And with a single pickup stick, we can create any block design we want, no matter how many shafts or how many treadles it requires. So it's really, really powerful. And thinking about the design process, or thinking about what a pickup stick means, I want to get right out in front of this, because people often think, oh, pickup, right? I got to do this the whole time. I'm going to pick up that design. Really what it is a mobile shaft. So for those who speak shaft, and not everyone who participate in this Rigid Heddle seminar has to know anything about how a shaft loom works. Sometimes it can even get in your way. So that shaft can change. And so what's so powerful about it is that I can move my blocks around. So the warping process, once you wrap your head around the threading, is really pretty simple and not shaft restricted. And the design process is also not threading restricted in that way, because I can move them around. So an example of the kind of piece that we would weave is something like this. So it looks at some really simple blocks. We'll look at the textures. So you have bricks, blocks, and columns, and ways that you can design. So we have summer side and the winter side. We call this the high runner. And that can be translated into, things like this, which actually take, 9 shafts and 12 treadles to weave on a shaft loom. This is the piece that was in the slide. So you can take whatever block designs out there. And if you don't know what a block weave is, we'll also get into that. And a little side note, lace is also easily translated in this setup. So you can take that same idea and translate it into lace. So it's a really, really fun way to design, to come up with some really creative pieces. You don't have to preset your design ahead of time. You can design on the loom as you go. You're going to need a rigid Heddle loom with a double Heddle block. So not a single Heddle, although you can hack a single Heddle, really going to ask that folks bring that double Heddle block because it's going to make it easier as you manage the back Heddle and the pickup stick itself. We're going to look at, I'm going to supply the yarn to just take that variable out. So we'll all have the same yarn, some different colors to pick from. We'll warp the first day, dive into a little bit of theory, wrap our heads around it. And then the second day we'll start weaving, and you will take home enough warp. We won't finish the project in class, but you'll take home enough warp that you can keep working on this piece, maybe design your own piece, because my philosophy is weave, repeat. The more we reinforce it, the better we get. So I'm excited about it. And if anyone has any questions about that seminar, bring them on.
Right. Thank you, Liz. So one question is, how is this different from your other sessions, structure and the rigid Heddle loom, which is a 90-minute session, I believe?
Yeah, so that is really going to look at structure on the rigid Heddle loom globally. So we're going to look at 2 Heddles, 3 Heddles, 1 Heddle, twills, summer and winter, double weave. So it's looking at what does the structure environment look like on the rigid Heddle loom, and how set density, a lot more. So this is a very specific structure in a very specific way for specific design. That seminar is going to dive into more theory, looking at how shafts and drafts align, where they diverge, in that way. So they're complementary, but focus on different areas.
What sort of experience is needed for folks wanting to take this summer and winter block design?
It isn't necessary that you have necessarily used 2 Heddles before, but what I ask is that you're an adventurous beginner. So you feel really confident in warping, and weaving to some extent in the basics, meaning, confidence is always a tricky word, but we will be using a direct warping method. I can speak to the indirect method. So, you don't have to be familiar with using a warping board. The warping itself is a little more straightforward than you might think. So please don't be shy, just that you feel confident in the direct warping method and that you've got basic vocabulary, understanding terms in that rigid Heddle world and weaving terms in general.
Thank you so much, Liz. That is summer and winter block designs on the rigid Heddle loom. It is a 2-day workshop, which will be held on Monday and Tuesday, July 15th and 16th. Thank you so much, Liz, for sharing. Next up, we have Deborah Held, who will be leading a 3-hour seminar called Love Your Blending Board, going way beyond the Rolag. Welcome, Deborah.
Hi. Okay, here I come. Can you see me now? Wait a minute. Oh, we're both doing that. Okay, can you see me? Here we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Debbie Held, and this is my first Convergence, but not my first teaching experience. I am by trade I was a business writer, and then eventually I became a writer of spinning content. I write for Ply and Spinoff and Sweet Georgia, and then somehow I started teaching, and I teach all over the place, thank goodness, which is very fortunate. But along the way, I fell in love with the blending board because it was the first processing tool that I could get my hands on. I really wanted a drum carder, and I just couldn't afford one, right? So I bartered my writing skills for a blending board, and that thing just changed, everything for me. And yes, we know that, I'm going to show you some stuff. We know that it's great for Rolags, right? Everybody knows that. And that's what we think of when we think of a blending board. Look how like fluffy and, but there's a better way to utilize the blending board to really maximize it. So it does more than Punis and Rolags. I do everything on it. I do have a drum carder back there. It's very nice, right? And I use it occasionally. It's lovely, but I really prefer my blending boards, which have turned into multiple blending boards. They're all kind of behind me. And in fact, I have a book coming out on blending boards next year around this time. I'm just kind of throwing information about myself. I co-wrote this book with Walt Turpening. This came out, I guess, last year. And I just fell in love with it. And I want everybody to love the blending board because it can do so much. These are some rovings. This is a roving I did. I use scrap ends and I use comb top. I use all kinds of mix-ins. I use dyed fleece that I work with. And honestly, truly, really, I wrote this article for Ply. You can see these two rovings that I pulled. All right, I hand pulled these. And one was from my drum carder, one was from my blending board. And they've traveled a lot now, but I no longer know which is which. And that's really what I want people to understand, that they can maximize this tool. There are some what I call like pro tips of how to do that, including the tools we use with it, very inexpensive accessories that you might have at home. And we will, in these 3 hours, you will get so much fiber, you'll get a bunch of mix-ins, you'll go home with extra, you will have, like me, so much to spin. I just even I am sometimes awed. This is from a fine merino fleece. This is from, what is that? Oh, it is alpaca and comb top and silks. So, they look very different. Same weight, same amount of fiber. It's really just remarkable. Bring your blending board if you have one. Bring your excitement. If you don't have a blending board, I have two that I could loan out, but you would need to get in touch with me in advance. Trying to think what else. Oh, bring some scissors. And I think that's it. Happy to answer questions too. And I'm really looking forward to meeting everybody.
This sounds like so much fun. As a spinning newbie and a relatively new blending board owner myself,
great.
Would this session be appropriate for someone like me or other spinning newbies?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the other thing. If your interest is just in something tactile, or you have, I don't know, a family member who spins, you don't really need to spin. Obviously, most people there will be spinning who are in that class, but no, it's perfect for you or any level of spinner.
Wonderful. And you did mention about some prep for the class, the supply list, and the materials fee involved, which you said covers some fiber. That's exciting.
A lot of fiber, yeah.
I just want to remind everyone that the session supply lists are available in the Sessions and Leaders page on the HGA website. So this is Love Your Blending Board, going way beyond the Rolag. It is a 3-hour seminar that will be held on Saturday, July 13th. Thank you so much, Deborah, for sharing.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Marcy Petrini, who will be leading a 3-hour seminar called Can We Be Inspired by the Inspiration of Others? Welcome, Marcy.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I find, let's see if I can share my screen here. There is so much inspiration on Convergence that I think it's good to go through the process of thinking just about how we as individuals go through it. And I often, when I go somewhere and see something, I think, oh, that would be great in a weaving. And I know I'm not the only one. Occasionally I'll post a picture of a scenery and there will be people say, oh, weave that. So it's great way to look at your surrounding and pay attention. So there's different ways that different aspects of a scenery or a flower that may inspire an individual to weave a certain piece. So here is a sunset, and I apologize for the colors. They do not always translate between the photo and the weaving. It's a lot easier when you have yarn and the photo there. But there ended up in a scarf that had oranges and yellows and a little bit of shades of light and dark. And then I look at a flower and then I think, oh, I could weave that shape. And you can't see the shape very much on the scarf. It does capture the stripes of the green leaves here and the pistil in the middle. But if you look at the close-up here, you can see the kind of the rounded and the petals going from the inside to the outside. And then in the spring, here is walking on the Natchez Trace, which is right about 4 miles from our house. And when the first blooms come out, it's just glorious, and it's warm. And then so I wove this shawl, which is a 3-1 reversible shawl that has both the pink of these flowers, but also we have lots of azaleas. So we have different colors of pinkish and purplish of azaleas and a little bit of green thrown in to take care of the plants that surround the azaleas and the flowering plants. And also not just a scenery, but here is a little cat that I no longer have, and he was warm and fuzzy. And I captured in this memory, actually I did a series of scarves that have the gray and white stripes and black stripes going in different directions. And they're smushy and soft, just like his little coat used to be. And then, which one of the things that we're going to stress in the seminar, what about other people's fiber art? This is a prayer rug from the Muslim religion, from a postcard from the Textile Museum in Washington, D.C. They have a fabulous extensive collection of various textiles from that part of the world. And without even knowing it, I had gotten the postcard. I was hoping to go see the exhibit, and I found myself that I had imitated some of the shapes and format of the postcard of the textile. So again, you can see it very much in the scarf. But you can see the overlapping diamonds in the close-up. So what are we going to do a convergence? Well, we'll use a new unique image to draw our inspiration. There's none of the ones that we talked about. And then we will we'll see what everybody else has thought of, what kind of inspiration they obtained from that particular picture. And then we'll do compare and contrast. And kind of like I did with a postcard from the Textile Museum, you look at another person's textile or another person's inspiration, since we won't have time to weave it there, and you think, oh, I could add that element. Oh, I could change that color. A lot of people do have this kind of inspiration, so it's a lot of fun to compare and contrast among people. And of course, I weave scarves and shawls, but this will be appropriate for household textiles, rugs, whatever it is that you make. And I've been told a couple of times, people say, oh, no, I just weave. I'm not inspired. Well, it's difficult to weave and not be inspired. So if you have that attitude, this is really a good place to start, because everybody will have different ideas, and you see that there are no right or wrong ways to be inspired. Thank you. I will take any questions. There's my website, and if I don't answer questions now, you can always email me. Thank you. I hope to see you there.
Much, Marcy, and just to remind everyone, there is no materials fee for this session. So this is Can We Be Inspired by the Inspiration of Others? It is a 3-hour seminar. It will be held on Thursday, July 11th. Thank you so much again, Marcy, for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Barbara Setsu Pickett, who will be leading a 3-hour seminar called Velvet Weaving Today. Welcome, Barbara.
Hello, it's E. Start my video. Can you see me? Okay, I'll say in back of me are 3 velvets. One is the Ikat velvet from Uzbekistan. The center is what I did in my Fulbright research year, and on the gold one is from Japan. And so I'm gonna start my share screen now and hope that I can get this to work. So, Velvet Weaving Today. In this 3-hour seminar, I shall try to condense 45 years of research and experimentation into a digestible package. I see the difference between the research would be milk, and the what I bring to the conference would be the cheese. Okay. I shall start with a PowerPoint worldwide overview of contemporary velvet weaving practices. It will touch on the unique tools and equipment that each atelier has developed to suit their aesthetic and needs. Then we'll turn up the lights and examine velvets from my collections and their specialized weaving tools. This seminar is open to all those curious souls who want to see and feel silk velvet and who want to learn about the artistry of figured velvets, where contrasting textures play the starring role. I ask you to come with clean hands, put food and drink aside, and have a sublime tactile experience. I shall compare the various tools and equipments, like those precious velvet wires and the velvet knives, and why you would use one over the other. Here's a preview of the ateliers in 9 countries that I've studied in, their tools and velvets. I must begin at the Foundation Lisio in Florence, Italy. In this seminar, you'll hear the whole story. My first visit was in 1978, and I did my Fulbright Research Fellowship there in 86 and 87. And then I developed the Fibers in Florence program for the University of Oregon. And I'm now trying to reinstate that program after COVID. Up in Zoale, Italy, on the Italian Riviera, there are 2 families, the Cordani, and here's Magda here, who's leading the company now, and also the Gajoli family. And these are multi-generational families that have always woven velvet. Then over in Venice, there's the Lorenzo Rubelli Filial Company and the Luigi Bevilacqua in Venice. Last year, I was fortunate enough to go to the Silk Museum in Valencia, Spain, and I perused the archive of the last velvet weaver of Spain. In Lyon, France, there's Prel, which I was there for their 250th anniversary, and also the Maison des Quenous, that is directed now by Agnès Alizé. This is her weaving. She's a marvelous weaver. In England, there's Richard John Humphreys and the Humphreys Weaving Company. And you've probably seen his last thing in the coronation of King Charles. He did the robe. In Harakay and Istanbul, Turkey, the Lampus looms are converted into velvet looms. And in Suzhou, China, the Silk Museum has the last figured velvet loom there, and this is the operation of that. And in Cholapur, India, the Asha workshop headed by Rao Jain reimagined the Mongol velvet draw loom. In Japan, in Kyoto, Master Ito doesn't weave velvet. He takes already woven solid velvet with the wires in, makes a design in a stencil, ponces that powder on the wires, and then cuts carefully where the white is of the ponce. And also Master Higuchi in Nagahama, Japan, has invented many ingenious methods to speed up the velvet process. In Uzbekistan, in the Fergana Valley, I've met 4 or 5 master designers and weavers. My principal teacher is Razujan Mizermadov. And then on the right there's Razujan on the far right, and then his son Abdullah, who's ready to take over for the 6th generation, I think. Okay, overall, I'll start with the PowerPoint and then go through all the equipment, and so you can see the velvets and what there is produced on them. Then we'll turn up the lights and there'll be 5 tables with my velvet collection on it. And I'll divide it into the Asian velvets versus the European velvets, and tell you the difference in how to identify different types of velvet. So the materials fee is for a reference manual and some very tiny samples. I noticed that in the application that the seminar is open to 50, and I'm not sure if I can weave 50 samples, but I do have some that everyone will get a tiny piece of Italian velvet, and also some other velvets with that manual. So I invite you to join in the fun, bring your pick class, and come for an exciting tactile experience. So you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Barbara. That covered a lot of, I think, what I had to ask for sure. So velvet weaving today, it's a 3-hour seminar. It will be held on Saturday, July 13th. And thank you again, Barbara, for sharing.
You're welcome.
All right, we have Robin Spady joining us next. She will be leading a 1-day workshop called Block Party. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you for having me. It's always great to kind of talk about weaving and what's going to happen, and hopefully answer anybody's questions about what exactly would I be doing in this class. So I'm going to go and start sharing my screen and bring up my PowerPoint. And in a moment, you should see just a white screen. But what I will be doing, hold on, at Convergence on Thursday, July 11th. This is the first day of classes for Convergence, and I was thrilled when I found out that HG had scheduled for the first day, because this is essentially a workshop without weaving. It's a 1-day workshop, and we're going to be talking about blocks. Blocks are the fundamental building block of nearly all weaves. The thing is that blocks are not created equal. And so if you've ever looked at a draft like this and think, oh my God, the floats are too long, and then thought, good grief, what do I do? What I'm doing is saying, come and learn how to be a blockhead, and be a blockhead in a good way. Blocks exist in many different ways. Understanding the block for one weave may not get you very far with understanding the block for some weaves. And it's because blocks are in different places. Threading blocks are what a lot of people tend to focus on, but there are blocks in the treadling, there are blocks in the tie-up, and that can be one of the most bewildering ways to understand what is going on in the block. And if you understand the block, you're a long way to understanding the weave. But there's also in some blocks in the treadles. And that is where I think some of the mystery is unraveled, and you go, okay, I got it. I now understand why this weave and this weave are very different, but I need to understand the block in order to leverage it to get the results that I want. We're going, whoops, it went too far, sorry. So we're going to start the workshop with an introduction to blocks and profile drafts. Profile drafts are built from the blocks themselves. Once we get through this introduction, we're going to go in and do a deep dive into the blocks on tide weaves, which would include everything from what most people call summer and winter, which is a single 2-tie. But the blocks help you understand the consistency and nomenclature between single 2-tie, single 3-tie, single 4-tie, double 2-tie. Then we're going to launch into the collection of the loom controlled lace weaves, such as Atwater Bronson, Huck lace, and Swedish, because the blocks are very, very different when it applies to these family of lace weaves. Then one of the most odd and irregular blocks we're going to be covering overshot. And then crackle is a really great contrast to some of these others, because if you can tackle tide weaves, lace weaves, overshot, and crackle, that's going to help you with other weaves like Bidervon. We're then, after we cover these, we are then going to get into using blocks to scale patterns up and down, meaning the number of shafts you have. So if you've recently purchased a loom with 8 shafts, 16, 32 or more, and you're going, what do I do with this? This is one way of taking a pattern that you may love and sort of blowing it up and increasing the number of shafts. But you could also use blocks to decrease the number of shafts. So if there's a 16 shaft pattern that you absolutely love, how can you reinterpret it within the block to reduce the number of shafts? We're going to look at, and a lot of this is through exercises. This isn't me talking all day. You're going to have some hands-on exercises about reverse engineering blocks. So if you see a fabric that you really like, how can you identify where the blocks are and reverse engineer it into a draft that you could take to your loom, thread it, tie it up, and treadle it? And then we're going to conclude with designing your own blocks. If you've ever looked at certain weaves and go, now how did they come up with that? Sometimes designing your own block makes you feel, I think, empowered. And I think it can be really exciting to develop your own block, which means your own weave and possibly even name it. So I'm hoping that people will be intrigued with the one-day workshop block party. The materials fee is $10. That includes a spiral bound handout that's over 150 pages right now. It's printed in color, but it basically encapsulates the blocks that we find in weaving. And all you need to know is basically how to read a draft. That would be really helpful. So if you're fairly new to weaving, this would be a great opportunity to broaden your horizon. If you've been weaving a long time, but you feel maybe challenged in interpreting some, especially historical drafts, this is also great. So that is my spiel. So if there are any questions, I would love to entertain them.
Excellent. No questions. You pretty much covered everything that I was going to ask. And all I will say is that this sounds very much like it would be a great resource for someone, like you said, new to weaving, to go home with that nice big spiral bound.
Yeah.
All right, so this is Block Party. It is a one-day workshop. It will be held on Thursday, July 11th. Thank you so much, Robin, for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have David Heustess, who will be leading a 3-day workshop called Secrets of Shibori, Stitches and Knots and Indigo. Welcome, David.
Good morning, Julia. I'm so glad to see you again. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm David Heustess. I'm an artist living and working in Nashville, Tennessee, and have spent the past 27 years teaching art through a community ed-based type program at Vanderbilt University. I studied clay and fiber arts at the Appalachian Center for Crafts. Many of you may know Beth Ann Knudsen, who was the fiber resident or instructor there at the time. So I learned almost everything I know from her in that time period, and then have been very lucky to study with a number of people as well. A Shibori and Indigo class was something that was offered by an artist in residence at the Appalachian Center for Crafts. Her name was Heather Allen. And I took it at the time. I thought I was just being supportive of another artist and taking her workshop. I think I was going to get a whole 1 hour credit for it. And as we went through the semester for that class, I just became more and more involved in the techniques of Shibori, and especially in working with an indigo vat. So over the past years, I've been creating work. Most of them are dance figures, as you saw in that lead-in slide. And those are what I call my memories, because my first part of my art life was as a modern dancer working here in Nashville, and before that in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I like to work with the dance figures. They range in size from about 4 feet to 6 feet, and I keep finding myself working larger and larger. I apologize, I'm not in my studio today. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation for you. We had a little situation with my golden retriever, so we're actually sitting in the parking lot of our veterinarian, and she's doing okay. For this workshop, I'm used to traveling it to different locations, and so I will be supplying everything for you. The fabrics that you will be working with, your needle, your threads, your scissors, rulers, pencils. I just pack it all in a box along with the ingredients for an indigo vat and some buckets so that we can work with from there. For beginners, I like to start you with a sampler, usually about a 12 by 12 inch piece of cotton that will divide into grids, and you'll explore the different variations on the stitch work, as well as some of the knotting techniques of Shibori, and then some of the folded type of shapes and designs that you can make. I love Shibori because it's sort of a nature reference, and I changed some of the Japanese wording to my own version for it. So I have my own nicknames for each of these stitches, and we create different line qualities, either by the way that we manipulate our stitches, or in the spacing of the stitches from one side to another within those grid areas. If you have experience with Shibori and want to come with some of your own ideas for designs, then you could do a small wall hanging as well. And then I'll have silk scarves for everyone, where you could just play with a pattern or a design of your own, whether that's a combination of some of the things that you were trying. Everything will be that exploration. And my motto, or one of them, is expect the unexpected. So we never are quite sure what we might get through some of this process. And so we work very carefully, very not meticulous is the word, but I don't want to put that in as any kind of stress thing or whatever. It's just, you want to work very carefully so that everything's at the best place that you can put it before it goes to the indigo vat. And everyone seems enamored with indigo, and it is kind of a mysterious dyeing technique. There's nothing quite like it. And I do nickname my indigo vat, and I do treat it like a pet, but you can use indigo as a temporary thing in your home studio or in your backyard. You may make one in a quart-sized jar. I have one that is a 30-gallon trash can. So we will be talking about all of those kind of things. And I love questions. I love working with people and their ideas. And I especially love a group of beginners who have never maybe even touched a piece of fabric before. So welcome to everybody. And you can see there's Hayden. There's a bonus. If you like hanging out with golden retrievers, Hayden is my service dog, so she will be at Convergence with me. I can't believe I'm selling it this way. But just so that you know, I travel not only with all the supplies that you need, but a really beautiful golden retriever as well. So that is the class and or the idea of it. Julia, do you have any questions?
Thank you so much. Well, all I can say is that if you take half as good care of your indigo vat as you do your golden, then I think we're in for a treat.
Yes.
So
my indigo vat is over 10 years old.
oh my goodness. Very good. Well, this is going to be Secrets of Shibori, Stitches and Knots and Indigo. It is a 3-day workshop that will be held on Monday through Wednesday, July 15th through 17th. Thank you so much, David, for sharing.
Thank you, Julia. And I do look forward to coming to Convergence in Wichita, and so excited. This will be my second time attending a Convergence, and I'm so looking forward to it. So thank you so much.
Right, to wrap up this session spotlight, we have Mary Zicafoose, who will be leading a 3-hour seminar called ECOT Warp Shifting Techniques. Welcome, Mary.
Hi, Julia. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Nebraska. Welcome to my studio. Are you seeing me? Am I good, Julia?
You are good.
Okay, great. So this 3-hour seminar is basically my 3-day warp shifting ECOT workshop in a very condensed Cliff Notes version. In conjunction with a 90-minute lecture called ECOT, the Power of Pattern, you will have the entire thrust of, I think, of my workshop in a very condensed package. Why am I doing it this way? Last Convergence, I taught a 3-day workshop, the ECOT workshop, and I felt that this time I would try it differently. For one, it's going to free everyone interested in learning ECOT in this system to do it in a very condensed fashion, as well as free them up to take other things at Convergence. You don't have to rent a loom. You don't have to ship a loom. You don't have to pack a loom. You don't have to pack your dye clothes. You don't have to bring all your weaving accessories. And you don't have to spend 3 days at Convergence paying homage to the ECOT gods in a conference room. It's a very intense workshop in a 3-day format. So I thought if I could simplify this in some way and give you the same experience in a demonstration capacity, we'll see how this goes. So that is my goal. I will be bringing a loom and be demonstrating in the class all of the 6 warp shifting techniques that I will be teaching, as well as providing you with 2 PowerPoints and 2 videos. So in 3 hours, we're going to condense, literally, as I said, 3 days worth of information into 3 hours, but in a very, very sequential, orderly, organized fashion. And when you see me demonstrating, as well as looking at all of the ECOT images, I think the building blocks will fall into place for all of you. I've got to look at my notes here. we're not going to be dying in the class, but we will definitely, since ECOT is the art, of course, discussing systems and different dye processes for your success at home when you're doing ECOT. Why would you take this seminar? You would take it if you are actually interested in learning ECOT process and doing an ECOT. I feel that in conjunction with my book, and I have a copy of it here. I wrote a book several years ago. I'm in the process of doing a sequel to it now. ECOT, the Essential Handbook to Weaving Resist-Dyed Cloth. If you use this as a teaching companion, take this 3-hour seminar as well as my 90-minute short seminar, which is talking about the origins of ECOT. And it's a really opulent visual travelogue into the history of ECOT with hundreds of examples and ideas for fabulous ECOT cloth. So I think if you put all this together, not only taking a lot of other classes, but with a feather in your cap that, okay, I can go home and I can embark on an ECOT project. And that's, you'll have the inspiration and you'll have so much information under your belt as well as handouts. And that's about all I can give, in that time frame. But I think I am very curious to see what the results of this are, as opposed to going the long, hard 3-day route. And I think both seminars together are a 1-2 punch. So you can certainly take one and not the other. But I think if I would recommend, frankly, I would recommend both now that I have the stage here. So that's it in a nutshell. I don't have a PowerPoint for you today, but you get the gist. It's a 3-day workshop wrapped into 3 hours. So any questions, I would love it. Yeah.
I think that's wonderful, Mary. And yes, the idea of a weaving forward, dyeing forward, perhaps what would normally be a workshop condensed to a seminar or two. So what, if any, experience do folks need to have the most success in this session? I have noticed that in the registration book, you do mention that you must be able to warp a loom, although no looms will actually be showing up for this session. So
I think if you actually want to be an ECOT weaver, it would certainly help if you were a weaver to begin with. So if you had already had all those beginning weaving steps behind you, because ECOT is a very painterly approach to making cloth. So, and I think most of the people who would be interested in this class do have those weaving skills, but you don't have to bring them to class with you. You don't have to demonstrate them, because this will be a very hands-off experience. So, and if you are just thinking, oh, maybe, I'm just new to textiles, I think I want to be a weaver. Oh, I really love the look of that cloth. This could be for you. We're always just gathering information and filing it away. So I'm going to say this is wide open, really, to anyone who is interested in painterly cloth, and particularly those who are interested in making very painterly ECOT cloth.
Well, that is ECOT Warp Shifting Techniques. It's a 3-hour seminar. It will be held on Friday, July 12th. Thank you, Mary. And thank you to all of the session leaders that joined us today. As a reminder, registration for Convergence 2024 is open. If you are a member, you can log into your account and register for some of those 150 Convergence sessions at weavespindye.org/sessions. Join us next time. We will be hosting these leader session spotlights at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, most weekdays through November 22nd.
Right. Oh, no, my